It's Real Life with John Cowan on Newstalk ZB.
Understanding, you give me love so deep, that's why I depend on it. You give me faith that gets me across the river. You give me love so sweet, that's the only way I want it.
Good evening, New Zealand. I'm John Cowan, and this is Real Life. Each week on this program, you get to know someone a bit better. Usually it's someone you know from public life already, and you know a lot about them. And of course, on these programs, we do the normal biographical stuff in our interviews. But in this program, we do take a different slant in that we also look at the area of people's faith and beliefs, issues of soul. Tonight, we've done an archaeological dig to find an expert on soul, a hard-rocking soul and R&B musician from the 60s and 70s who vanished. He was on the telly, he was on the charts, and then he seemed to disappear. Well, he's back, and he's making a huge impression once again on the music scene. My guest tonight is Silva. G'day, Evan.
How are you, right?
Welcome back from the dead. And it's good to have you here in the studio tonight.
It's good to be here, yeah. Right.
Now, you didn't really vanish, did you? You didn't get abducted by aliens and taken off to Mars or anything like that, but you did vanish from the music scene.
I disappeared for a little while, and I think a few people did think that I disappeared. I remember one thinking I'd slipped away up north and become bush or gone bush, and sent me a telegram asking me to come back down to Auckland and get involved in doing sessions and jingle singing McDonald's ads and everything. But I wasn't far. I was in Auckland, so I was there in a jiff and, got into it.
So you went from being fairly an integral part of the music scene back in, was it the late 60s?
Yeah, late 60s, up to 69, around about 70 somewhere, and early 70s.
A regular on TV programs? Like
those come-on shows back there, but also I think the last thing for me was playing, the corner bar, the glue pot and all that sort of, doing some soul music.
Okay.
And, then I just kind of shut away for a little while.
Well, it's good to have your music out there again, and it's sounding great. You've got this new CD, and we're going to be hearing quite a bit of it tonight and also giving away some copies.
Good.
And I look forward to talking to you. Let's hear a little bit more of this track.
Get away and get my feet back on the ground. I've been walking in a line. Walking in a line. You got me walking in a line.
Phone 0800 80 1080 to talk back with John Cowan, or email reallife@newstalkzb.co.nz. It's Real Life with John Cowan on Newstalk ZB.
Well, so long, I've been missing you. Oh, I've been missing you. Telling me those little things that you do. Seeing you smiling when I wake up, I'm thinking of you.
I'm John Cowan, and I'm talking with Evan Silva, who's just released a beautiful CD called Out of the Shadows. And what track was that we're listening to, Evan?
That's a track, Still Missing You, which is just a good soul track with some good feel, good groove, good horn section, and the girls singing.
How would you describe your music? That you say that's soul?
Passion.
Yeah.
Emotion.
But is it R&B? Is it? I don't know how to put that into a category. Is it jazz?
Well, what's on this album? There's a selection of styles. There's a subtle jazz influence on this album, but that song there, for instance, I'd call that more a soul song than R&B. Mm-hmm. Rhythm and blues is to me anyway. The blues is sort of, it's not happening for you, and you're down, and you're woe is me. A little bit of that. Whereas that song,
it's sort of depression put to music.
Kind of to take you down. This groove,
is it meant to make you feel better or make you feel worse?
I think it's meant to make you feel worse.
Hey, well, this is a great CD, folks. If you want to feel worse, it's got you got some stuff to lift you back up. Again.
Well, that song lifts me, and even though it's about somebody's taken off on you and you're missing them, but the groove is infectious, and it's kind of up. It's got an up.
Well, I wouldn't have described myself as an R&B fan greatly, and I've never really been able to understand jazz all that much. I keep on waiting for that click to happen, but I've been driving around with your CD in my car, and I'm getting to like it. It sort of grows on me. It grows on me. Now, if you're a regular listener to News Talk ZB, especially Leighton Smith, Evan will already be very familiar to you because Leighton positively froths at the mouth over your music, doesn't he, Evan? He plays it a lot.
Yeah, he does.
He sort of helped you sort of relaunch your music career?
Yeah, what happened was I think I heard him speaking one morning on air, and I just sort of enjoyed what he had to say and his sort of his style, and so I sent an album to him. No motive. Just to say thank you.
No,
man.
Yeah. Pure generosity.
Yeah, it was.
The fact that he talks
one of the
to
many
hundreds of thousands every morning. So.
Yeah, and so he started playing it, and it took to it, and that's where it all started. Yeah.
Okay. Now he was actually part of your second CD that you put out. I mean, this CD that you put out. It's the first one that you've sort of. Yeah, huge general release, but you've been putting out a few CDs up till now.
I've worked on things myself, written songs, recorded, low budget, pulled in musicians that I work with, and we did a live album called "Gotta Get Up" in our venue where we do our church and whatever, that kind of thing, and I invited Leighton Smith over to introduce the album, which he kindly said yes.
Well, that was amazing because I put in the CD and I thought I know that voice.
Yeah,
I know that voice. In fact, we'll play a little bit of it now. Thanks, Phil.
Cool.
Now, I take it they're reporting Leighton, are they? Or reporting you there?
You're getting ready for me.
Okay.
I want to give you a little bit of history of why I think I'm here doing this introduction. Now, I should go back to 1989 because in my mind that's where it might start. At the end of 1989, I came back from New Orleans with a new CD by Dr. John called Makin' Whoopee. And I was the only person in the country that played it. And I have a little plaque, a lovely little plaque that's hung on the wall now from the record company to thank me. And since then I've got one or two more from different companies for breaking records. Now, for a talk station, breaking records is not exactly your normal routine. But I like my music, and I like different music, and I'd like to play it. I think that somewhere along the line, Evan communicated with me once or twice by fax or whatever, and a bit of a rapport was built up, and I want to confess to you that I didn't have any idea who Evan Silva was. I went to Phil Ewell and I said, "Who's this bloke Evan Silva?" I mean, as far as the music was concerned, he gave me a bit of background, the action, the wild days in Sydney and Melbourne of the 60s and I think the early 70s. And then, somewhere around the mid-70s, Evan found God. This came as quite a surprise to God because he wasn't sure he was lost. And his life has taken a different turn as it usually does for people who find God. Anyway, this CD arrived called Ain't No Two Ways About It, and I played it in the car and listened to it. And then I played it to a couple of friends and I said, "Tell me what you think about this." And they both said, they were separate times, separate occasions, different friends. And they said, "Well, he's black for a start." So I said, "Yes, possibly, but then he got Michael Jackson's disease." Slow, but Anyway, I started playing it on radio, and I particularly loved Sweet Love. I think that was a song of international standard, above to me anyway, above all else, although the rest of it was pretty good as well. And Love, Sweet Love is a song that adore wouldn't be too great a word. So Evan asked me to come tonight and do this. But it wasn't until I arrived here tonight that I first shook Evan's hand and met him face to face. So it's a pleasure. And you keep up the good work because it's fabulous. The music's great, and I know what you're trying to do, and I commend you on it. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome, for this live recording tonight, Silva Service and the fabulous Evan Silva.
Well, Leighton was certainly ecstatic about you. He's the number one fan, isn't he?
Yeah, he was. He was and is.
Well,
yeah.
You've got more than one fan. I tuned into another radio station that shall remain nameless, and heard a couple of dinosaurs talking on their music program, and they just loved your music,
cool.
And they were going on about how they thought it must have been recorded overseas. And how it had a lovely vinyl feel, whatever that means. I don't know whether but it was recorded locally, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was recorded at Stebbings on, I think that's what surprised a few people. We've recorded analog, which is the old school way, on 2-inch tape. And so there's no digital kind of connection through the recording, which, bottom line, it's what you hear is what was played.
Right.
Basically. And I think a number of people, when they've heard that, and heard the album, they think, hey, no, it couldn't be. It's got to be, must have been doctored somewhere, you know?
So there's all these physicians, all these engineers and things working so hard to develop this machinery that creates an incredibly crisp, brittle sound, and then you go and
just go back old school,
drag out something that's 40 years old
that's right, man.
to get that right sound.
Yeah. And Tony Moan, the engineer, who did this album for me and with me, Tony's got great ears for... just recording, and also manages to get it set for a very good radio sound. So you get a big, warm, very real sound, true sound. So it's great.
So this latest CD came out in February.
February 14, Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day, how significant. And it's going well?
It's going good, yeah. It's consistent and building. And, I'm just doing what I can to get it out there, you know.
I've got some copies of Evan Silva's new CD called Out of the Shadows. He'll autograph it and sign it to you. And so if people call in tonight and we end up speaking to them, we'll give you some of these copies. So that's another incentive to call in. 0800 80 1080 if you'd like to talk to Evan about his music, about the change of in his life that we're going to be talking about soon. 0800 80 1080. And let's listen to that music that Leighton was especially keen on, that track Love, Sweet Love.
It makes him feel strong. She moves with the rich. It makes her feel like she belongs. And they run with the wind as it moves along. He cries out for love 'cause he's feeling lonely. Like me and you, there is no other way but to cry to God today.
Phone 0800 80 1080 to talk back with John Cowan, or email reallife@newstalkzb.co.nz. It's Real Life with John Cowan on Newstalk ZB.
For a new life, baby. Yeah. I got to get the message through to you. I feel it stirring in my soul here lately. Look here. tell me what this boy gonna do.
I'm John Cowan talking to Evan Silva, and that's some of his music. And that's your voice?
That's me.
You can get it up that high.
That's funky. That's me being funky.
And you're not making all that music in the background. You've got quite a few people helping you out.
24 musos on this album.
24? How do you get that many people to come in on a project like that?
Just have some respect, ask them to come and do it and pay them.
Hey, so people are keen to have a chat to you. Hello, John.
Hello, John and Evan.
Hey, John.
Evan, great album.
Yeah, enjoy
Love it. In fact, I love it so much.
Yeah.
I'm on my third copy.
You're joking, man.
Yeah, I keep wearing them out. No, I
cool?
tell you what, I don't really honestly I don't wear them out. They make such a great gift. I've ended up giving away my first 2 copies, and I'm a third copy.
Wow, man.
And I'm listening to it pretty non-stop.
That's good.
Some great tracks on it.
Fantastic.
But I want to ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah.
When are we going to hear you live? You and your band.
Wow, you just missed me
Concert.
live. You just missed me live. I played in Helensville last Saturday night, last week, last Saturday night with the 8-piece unit up in Helensville.
Great.
And we've got some other things coming up, Business by the Book conference and all that. But we're looking at a launch.
Yep.
We're looking at an album launch. We're just trying to find a suitable venue that will house enough people, and it's got to be funky on the inside.
Can I chime in here? How can people find out when you're going to be on? Is there a website or something like that
There's not a website. I don't have one at the moment. I need to get one, obviously. But we have a database that we work with from our music nights that we do. So we'd, inform the database and then make sure we get it around,
Okay, so if you're a fan, chances are you'll find out.
You will.
Okay.
What about some of the musos that are playing on the album, Evan? Are they working with you with your live gigs? Or?
Yeah, I've got Junior Fitz, who's the bass player. Junior works with me all the time, all the time. He's a great bass player. Nathan Porter, the piano player on the album, he works around town a lot. I think he's on the Ray, doing the Ray concert. He's one of the main players for the Ray concert. He's with me most of the time. He's like main keyboard player, piano player. And the horn players I use, Chris and David. David's from Chicago, Negro from Chicago. He plays horn with me, and Chris Nielsen. So most of the guys
Did he come out from America just to do
I
it?
paid him well. No, David's, he lives here now in New Zealand. But most of those players I do work with live. And when we go, like when I do, I'm looking to do something in Wellington and probably Christchurch later, I will use the drummer off the album and the guitar player off the album because they're Wellington, Rotorua people.
Great.
So I'll sort of line all that up,
Great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. And when are you looking? What sort of time frame?
Well, I'd like to do it tomorrow night, but
Reality.
Go do it tonight, though.
Yeah, we just got to get together and set a date, venue, and rehearse and things like that.
Thanks
Yep.
for your call, John. Stay on the line. We'll flick you another copy of the CD
Wow.
so you can give away that one that you're listening to now.
Wonderful.
Probably worn out.
Thank you.
So
Go,
we'll get
Johnny,
you another
go.
copy. Sounds like you're working for Evan's publicity department. But, thanks very much.
My
for your
marketing
call.
man.
I got another
Good on
call.
you.
here. Hi, Keith.
Good evening.
Hey, Keith.
Hey, how's Evan?
I'm good, man. Very good.
I just have to say, I really appreciate your music. I mean, you get my feet moving. I remember a few years ago when I came along to the church there, to Harbour Christian Fellowship, and you got my feet moving.
That's good.
There's not many places you can go along to like that, and not only get a good message, but hear the pastor get up and get his groove on and get you dancing. And that was at a particularly important time in my life too. I think you were one of the people who I felt I could talk to. You come across as pretty real, and you do that in your music too. You get beneath the pop song into something that's got some. You're talking to people's hearts with your music, and I just want to thank you for that.
That's
and
cool,
for being the kind of guy who passes on his wisdom. And not only in his music, but in the church situation.
That's good.
Now, I take it Keith
Yeah.
also works for your publicity
No,
department.
he's not. No. Keith, I know.
This is really good, and you're alluding to the fact that as well as being a muso, Evan is also a minister. And when you look at some of his earlier life, it's a fairly surprising transition. I'm looking forward to talking to him a bit about how does a person move from the from a pretty heavy scene in Sydney to pastoring a church on the North Shore. I'm sure there's a story there.
Well, I think that gives him credibility too. There's a lot of people who relate back to some of those early days in the soul music scene, perhaps in Auckland, or there were some pretty interesting times in people's lives, and when they can go back and say, Evan was there, he understood, he came through it. He struggled with a lot of things, and the thing about Evan is he's honest. He'll tell you straight to your face what he sees. Perhaps he's learned in his life and can pass on to you. And he's been a bit of a mentor to me as old Evan. And to see somebody, it just proved to me that things get, that you get a second chance in life, and that things get better with age. And that album, and even Evan's previous albums, it just kept me hopeful that that Christianity can be relevant. Today, and some of the people like Evan, they're real and honest, and they give it to you straight.
That's good, Keith.
Hey, Keith, thanks very much for your call. And,
thanks, man.
Stay on the line, and we'll flick you off a copy of Evan's new CD. I'm sure you've already got a copy, but I'm sure that you'll find a decent place for another copy to give away. Thanks very much.
Cool, Keith.
Okay.
Take care, man.
Hey, we'd like to put out a special call out of Francis Gibson, if you're there. Francis, last week you called in, and we promised you a dozen oysters when we're talking to Tim Shadbolt, and we must have got your number down wrong, because when we called you back to arrange for delivery, no one seemed to know Francis Gibson living at that address. So if you give us a call back on 0800 80 1080, we'll get those oysters to you. Only Francis Gibson, thank you. No Francis Gibson impersonators, thank you very much.
Hey, Carol, give him a call, man.
Francis Gibson. We're going to have to ask you to hold your birth certificate up to the telephone just to make sure. I'm talking with Evan Silva, and we're going out with another track called You Dance, I Sing.
With the earth beneath my feet can't touch the sky. Feel the sun against my skin, oh me, oh my. Hear the music play and watch me fly. You see the body start to sway. Get on the floor and dance away. I hear the bell, it rings, then I start to sing. You can watch me move.
Watching you.
As I catch the groove. In my mind, hear a melody to sing, it's like divine. I catch the rhythm, steal some time, as the singer shapes a word, making it rhyme. The voice begin to say, it takes your heart and soul away. I take a breath to bring what I'm gonna sing. You can watch me move.
It's Real Life with John Cowan on News Talk ZB. It's Real Life with John Cowan on News Talk ZB.
As it is, as it is. As it is, as it is.
Your mercy, we will take it home and to the stream. Everybody sure knows about your power, and we know your name, oh Prince of Peace. We will come to your
I'm John Cowan, and we're listening to some music by Evan Silva, and we've got Evan in the studio with us, and you're adding to my musical education. What style of music do you call that?
That would be, I mean, that's just
Latin.
Latin, sort of subtle Latin groove, which gets heavier toward the end of the song.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, looking across at you here, there's a touch of a tar brush in your complexion there, and your name's not spelt like Long John Silver, is
That's
it?
right.
We've got a Silva.
It's the VA.
You've got a few exotic genes floating around there.
A little bit of Portuguese. My great-grandfather jumped ship in the islands.
Yeah.
And the original name was Pereira. Mm-hmm. And changed his name to Silva. And so it's come on down to me.
Right.
And hence, I think some of that...
Roger Silva would have come down to me out of my family. But that's
yeah. So that's hence that kind of Latin rhythm, I think.
Right. Has it influenced your music, these...
Well, it's strange how it happened, because I hadn't written anything previous to the live album with a Latin sort of rhythm. And it was just, I don't know, it was just sort of, I was writing one day and had this rhythm, and I thought, wow, where does that come from? It's got to come from the roots. And so I followed through with that, and there's a couple of Latin tracks on this new album.
Okay. What was your first dip into music? You've been in music, for more than 30 years now?
First dip was when an uncle of mine used to take me across to the North Shore when I was probably, 12, 13.
Yeah.
And sing in a club, totally freaked at the time, in a North Shore club, Frankie Lyman songs and sort of, that kind of music. And that caught me. And then so I thought, well, when I was about 16, I think, I pursued it and, sang a bit of pop and sang pop and that.
What, you in a band?
Yeah, a band called The Mockers, actually.
The Mockers?
But not that...
Not the Fagan Mockers?
Yeah, not the Fagan Mockers.
No.
But, and I didn't enjoy the pop thing. It wasn't my scene. And so I started my own band called Nobody's Children, which was a soul band, and went on from there. And just kept it going, just developing it, just working at getting better at what I was doing,
Yeah. Now, I've heard it said that you and the law weren't getting on too well about this stage.
I had some severe run-ins in the early stages when I was living in Wellington, in Oraki, and I just kind of we moved house. We moved from one street to another street. And
That's not against the law.
It was weird. That's right. It was just weird. It was like all on. I look back and I was just running with a completely different group of guys, a different group of people, and I was kind of gullible, and there was a sense of excitement and about it, and I just got in a messy scene, and I don't know. I must have been an angry young guy.
Did you bop a few people?
Well, yeah, but not necessarily on my own. I wasn't big enough. I was only about 8.5 stone. But
so you're picking on people bigger than yourself?
Well, I was. I was a bit crazy, But I'd always make sure that there was somebody,
It was interesting that you managed to survive to be hauled off to court.
Yeah. And so, but I think I learnt fairly quick. Like I figured, if I continued down this track, if I don't pull myself up, I'll just get locked in here, and and so I thought, and the music, I wanted to pursue the music, you see, and so I thought, well, I got to be out on the weekends to play, so figured about this sort of
out on the weekends, were your weekends taken away?
Well, weekends were taken away. It was in Parnell, locked up in a big house there for a weekend, and all
periodic detention.
Yeah, periodic detention. It was horrible, man. Absolutely horrible. Blistered hands and, shoveling in the rain. And
you'd much rather be off playing if you've been...
I'd sooner be gigging, mate, having fun and, maybe the odd drink of lemon gin in those days or whatever.
So you did get back into the band scene, though, around town, and you got into some fairly major...
Yeah, I stayed.
Bands,
I stayed in it. I got straightened up and I joined a band called The Action, and we were doing the top 20, and then we moved on to the Galaxy, and then we went off to Oz, went off to Sydney, and we did all the come on shows, had 4 songs on the charts and things like that, and just kind of thought, well, we've done everything we can do here, and we've got to get out of here.
So you're riding fairly high in the music scene in Sydney?
Yeah, we went to Sydney and did the Whiskey A Go-Go, and that just took off immediately, so we signed a contract with a club called the Hawaiian Eye. And
that would have been full of American GIs, I guess.
That's right. There was a scary side of that, because some of those guys were severely damaged, and, 3 a.m, those guys are not good to be hanging around with.
What was the lifestyle like back then? Was it the sort of the drugs, sex and rock and roll lifestyle?
Very fast.
Yeah.
Very fast, very carefree.
Was it doing you damage?
Yeah. lack of respect for others around about you and lack of respect for your own body and mind, I think.
Yeah.
And, the drugs are fine for a while, but then they start to kick in and start to affect you. You're forever saying they're not and they won't, but you find out later on that there is an effect. And
So the band Action fell to bits?
Yeah, with 18 months we stayed together over there.
Yeah.
And then I joined other bands. I joined a great band called Compulsion. Fantastic. We all had big afros and it was a wild band down in Melbourne. And we were on the road, we did 5 gigs a night and whatever. And that was a lot of fun. And came back to Sydney with another big band. And then it just came to the end of it. Just said, I've had enough of this, the
You really
lifestyle.
did just get sick of it?
I just got sick of it, man. I just got... if I look back now and try to connect with or look at... try to sort of, say what I felt like I was dying.
Yeah.
On the inside, I was dying. I felt like a dead man. Even though there was things happening all around me, I just felt inside, internally dead or dying. That's what it felt.
Yeah.
Grey, dark, hopeless.
And so back to New Zealand?
Back to New Zealand. Came back to New Zealand, put another band together in New Zealand, played for a while underneath the... which is the Civic Picture Theatre. There was a club down there called Do Re Mi. I had a big 8-piece band doing all sorts of stuff. Edgar Winter, great music. We played some great stuff. Sly and the Family Stone, and that was a good band, but I was dying, man. I was just dying.
And did you feel like that the best of your life was already past then? Did you feel like you'd been at the top and were...
I felt like there was more for me, but I couldn't get there because of whatever was going on inside me. I just felt sort of hopeless.
But you didn't die, so what happened?
Some say, I suppose, you find God, but really, it's God finds you. God knocked on my door.
Well,
he just knocked on my door, man.
There weren't 2 of them wearing suits knocking on your door. No.
No.
How do you mean?
It's a long story. I'll give you the short version.
The Reader's Digest condensed version.
I had a grandmother. Who was praying for me for a number of years, unbeknown to me until I became a Christian.
Hang in there, praying grandmothers.
Beautiful, I tell you, man. It's amazing. I had 2 sisters that were Christians that were also praying for me. One, unbeknown to me, the other would tell me frequently that she was praying for me, which used to turn me off and get me aggro as well. And then 2 of the guys out of the band that I played with in the Action, the bass player and guitar player, both became Christians. So when I came back from Australia...
Oh, God was just noosing you and
totally, man.
Putting a net right around you.
There were some surprises, severe surprises for me. And so people would talk to me about Christ. Over a 12-month period, people would walk up to me in Queen Street, total strangers, and say something to me about God or Jesus Christ or whatever. And so after about 12 months of that, you've got to start saying, hey...
So you really got this idea God was after you?
I got the feeling.
Did you have any notion of that God was real, or did you just wonder, or what was your attitude to God at that stage?
Disinterested. I wasn't searching. I didn't think I was searching at that stage. God was maybe real to me, but I'd never really personalized him. And whoever he was a long, long way away from me. But when people started talking to me, they were just words. But then some things started to happen that physically almost started to touch my life.
How do you mean physically?
I was in a room with my parents one night, watching TV, and sitting in a room, Mum and Dad and my girlfriend, who was now my wife, Carol, watching black and white TV, and I just started laughing. Just this incredible, I would say a joy rather than a sort of a crazy laughter. But I just felt this incredible happiness bubbling up inside me. And I was trying to work out, I thought, is this a flashback from some acid? That's what I thought. So I tasted my tongue. There was nothing on the edge of my tongue that related to the old taste of the LSD, And so then I looked at the TV and I was looking closer, and there was a group of people being baptized in water down in Mission Bay, or, going down into the water. And then there's some connection here, man. There's some, and this...
Let's get part 2 of your conversion in a few minutes. Here's a track, Ain't Two Ways About It, which I think is probably related to this. But we'll find out a bit more about this in a minute.
Ain't no 2 ways about it. No use pestering me. Ain't no 2 ways about it now. I made my mind up, you say. It happened back in the 60s. Some guy jumped on the stage. Ain't no two ways about it now. My heart had filled up with rage. Did not believe, so I made him suffer. Ain't no two ways about it. About it. Someone checked on my heart. Ain't no two ways about it now. I see it right from the start. My heart was bitterly twisted. I ended up in a mess. I called your name in the midnight hour. I must get this off my chest. But now I believe.
It's Real Life with John Cowan on News Talk ZB. It's Real Life with John Cowan on News Talk ZB.
I'm talking with Evan Silva, and we're hearing a bit about his life after a fairly wild life in Sydney and back to New Zealand, and finding that he had that feeling like he was dying inside, but also that sense that perhaps God was after him. So tell me more.
Yeah, well, that night in my parents' lounge was an initial, or an initiator, really. The reality of God. It was the first time that I'd experienced anything that powerful, now I say spiritual. I didn't understand that then, but just powerful touch of God on me, but it was internal. It like touched the inside of me, just bypassed all of my flesh and bone, and just touched me, and it felt incredibly pure. So I started searching around about then.
How did you search?
First thing I did, I went outside the house that night, sat on the rubbish bin out in the back porch, and looked up at the sky, and just creation just really stood out to me, and it was like acknowledging God in my heart. It was like acknowledging the reality of God, the Creator. And so that was the beginning. And then one of the other things that we did, we were invited to go to a church meeting, which I was incredibly cynical.
When you say we, is this you and your girlfriend?
Carol and I, yeah. So we went to our first, Christian meeting. I'd just shaved my head, I think, and had trousers that I'd made out of flour sack or something like that, bangles up my arms. Carol had a calico dress on, mirrors all the way down the front with long blonde hair, and we walked into a conservative Christian meeting, and it was good because the meeting had already started. We sat right at the back. And I just watched what was happening, and I, just looking and putting the senses out and feeling and stuff like that. And I just saw something of, I saw a couple of miracles actually that night, some healings that seemed to be verified, seemed to be for real. And so that, again, number two sort of, set me up. And then one night laying in bed in our flat in Remuera, Carol turned to me, it was about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. She said, "Evan, what do you think of this Jesus thing?" And I said, "Well, I don't know," kind of passing the buck a bit, And she said to me, "Well, shall we pray?" And I said, "Okay." So we held hands, and I remember praying. And all I said was, "God, if you're out there and you want us, then show us and we'll come to you." And instantly, man, it was just right then, the room just filled up with the most amazing peace. And I turned to Carol, she turned to me, same time. I said, "Do you feel that?" I said, "Yeah, that's amazing." We just drifted off to sleep, just grooved off to sleep, man. And I woke up at 4 o'clock that morning with somebody standing beside my bed. I wasn't afraid. And I woke up and I reached out to it was like there was a hand over my chest, outstretched over my chest. And so I reached out to touch the hand, and as I did, the figure just withdrew out of the bedroom through the door. And I think it was probably within a week that myself and Carol went to talk to a minister, and he talked to us about Jesus Christ, and I opened my heart to Christ that night, and that was it, man. That's 30 plus years ago.
30 plus years, no looking back.
No looking back, no.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And now, the Christian music scene, I imagine back then, would have been pretty vanilla. It would have been fairly praise be style.
I thought, where am I going to go in here, in amongst here? Where can I find some groove in here? I mean, it was pathetic.
Yes.
It was absolutely pathetic.
Yeah.
And I found that very, very difficult in some ways to fit in. But my conversion, I look back now, and my conversion was so effective and real to me that I managed to hang around, play my part in church, mix with people that I would never normally mix with, and I just take it that I had a change of heart.
So it was a complete lifestyle
I had a change of heart,
around.
man. I couldn't have stood that music. It was sick. It was sick. It was sick.
There's still pockets of sickness.
There are
in
still
healing
pockets of
Christian
it,
music.
man.
So I'm
There
very
is.
grateful for someone like you that can bring some freshness into Christian music, because this music, when you listen to it, the first thing isn't, oh, that's awful, and it isn't, oh, that's really spiritual.
Yeah.
It's neat music, and then you
Yeah.
start to listen to the lyrics, and
Yeah.
it's got some great
There's
stuff.
a subtle message
We'll
in
be
there.
back in a minute. This
Cool.
is News Talk ZB.
Your love saved me from a misty morning fall. Was somewhat hazy as I stumble through it all. Feel the eyes of someone watching. Touch the hand that's coming down. Your love saved me. Now I'm waking to the sound.
It's Real Life with John Cowan on News Talk ZB. It's Real Life with John Cowan on News Talk ZB.
Well, I began talking to Evan Silva at the beginning of the hour, saying that he was back from the dead, and in a sense that's almost true, isn't it, Evan?
Yeah, it
You
is
said you
really.
felt like you were dying,
Yeah.
that there was
Yeah.
some great, something was decomposing
Yeah,
in the
totally
heart
on
of
the
Evan
inside,
Silva.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
how has God met that need?
Well, I think just life, just my spirit came alive to God, and providing I nurture that and look after that and feed that, it just gets stronger. And it doesn't mean that all of a sudden I'm flying every day, and not feeling things that I'm not affected by what goes on around about me or things in my life. I still have times where I'm down and I need to just call on God to help me to, get buoyant again. And
Yeah.
it's just reality, man. It's just life, and God's a great a source of hope for future and all of that to call upon. Yeah.
Well, Evan, it's been great talking to you tonight.
Fantastic.
Great hearing some of your music. I wish
Yeah.
you all the best with
Yeah.
this new CD
Yeah.
that is just astounding people. People are finding that they're enjoying it and
Yeah.
then realising, hey, there's some spiritual lyrics in
Yeah,
there as well.
that's right,
And I
yeah.
guess that's what soul music is supposed to be
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
And look forward to being with you next Sunday night when we're talking to Raybon Can. And in the week that's coming up, I don't suppose many of you are going to suddenly turn around and become pastors like Evan tonight, but I hope all of you will be encouraged to
Yeah.
ask some questions and do some thinking. Look forward to being with you next week. Listen to Leighton Smith chiming in on this track.
Yeah.
About this
Good
and
night.
that.
We'll talk about that.
I'm going to do my best to have a chat.
We get to chat.
And if you want it, you can have a dance. Well, there might be somebody here that would like the chance. Open your eyes and take a look around. Come on, let's shake some ground.
Shake, shake it. Shake, shake it.
He shuts his eyes playing in the crowd.
Shake
He
it.
always wears the colors very loud.
He wears a hat that fits way too tight.
Shake
She
it.
dreams of light at night. But there's no sorrow that heaven can heal. Some people don't belong behind the wheel.
He talks a lot about Jesus Christ, but I know that what he says
Is
is
it
right.
right? Is it right? Oh.
Tell me, do you know about it, sir? What about you? Tell me, what do you prefer?
Shake, shake it. Shake, shake it. Shake, shake it. Shake, shake it.
producer, he says, let's have a chat.
You understand that you just broke the law, and if you don't pay up this exercise, it is gonna cost you more. Open your eyes and take a look around. Oh, come on, let's shake some ground. Shake some ground.
Shake it. Shake it.
Shake some ground.
Shake it.
Come on, shake it. Come on, shake it. Come on, shake it. Come on, shake some ground.
It's Real Life with John Cowan on News Talk ZB.